everybody, and welcome to Retro Ratchet. Right, so I guess the first question all you guys will want to know the answer to is why this video and where did it appear from? So no, I've not bought an XR3i, which is unfortunate. We're kind of at capacity here at the moment for buying more cars. Everybody reaches a cap where they can't actually buy any more. So this was very kindly loaned to me for a week by a good friend of mine, John, just to carry out a review on it. So yeah, what I wanted to do was just randomly add in a few car reviews along the way, just to maybe spice up the channel a little bit. It can sometimes get a bit monotonous if it is just project reviews, fixing this or fixing that, so it's nice to add in another few different types of cars. Reviewing is something I've got little to no experience with, so I think it's good practice, certainly getting used to doing car reviews. So let's talk a little bit about this car, what it is. I mean, all the Ford fans out there will know exactly what it is, but for those who don't, it's a Mk5a Escort. These came out late, I think September 1990. This one was actually manufactured in the March 92, but it wasn't registered until March 1993, so it's sitting on a K plate at the moment, which is a bit unusual for a Mk5a. So by the time this was actually registered and on the road, the B would have been released probably about 6 months earlier. I think it was September 92 that the Mk5b with the oval grille was released. So it's maybe sat in a dealership showroom somewhere unsold because the newer model came out. So yeah, the poor old XR3i badge, it was dropped when the Mark IVs were discontinued in 1990, and we didn't see another XR3i badged Escort until early 1992, so 2 years later. So it would have been roughly around about the time that this was actually manufactured. This would have been one of the very first ones, I guess. And then it only had a very short run of 2 years, and then it was killed off again. It was replaced by the SI, which is meant to be, I guess, a little bit of a watered down version. I'm positive they still had the same 1.8 16 valve engine in them, but I guess everybody does love that whole XR3i, that retro badge, and all the little styling quirks that come with it. So it's a bit of a shame that they only chose to keep it on for 2 years, and then obviously the Focus came out later, I think in '97, and then we never had a Focus XR3i, so that was the end of that line. So as you've probably noticed, it's quite a striking colour, this one. It's actually called Aquafoam 90. I don't know where they got that name from, but you see colours like this on a lot of 90s cars. I had an MR2, I had a near identical colour. It's not really my favourite colour, but it does suit this, and it does get a lot of attention. So this was fitted with one of the earliest 1.8 16 valves. Back then when they were released, they were actually called Zeta rather than Z-Tech. So not many people will remember that, but it's a 1.8 16 valve Zeta, so it replaced old CVH that was in the Mark IVs behind. So in Escorts, they came in a couple of variants. They came in 105 horsepower and they came in 130 horsepower. I think it was about a second and a bit difference, 0 to 60 roughly on them. So this is a 105 horsepower one. So the 105 brake horsepower variant had drum brakes instead of discs and a different gearbox. I think the 130 brake one was an MTX 75 box or something like this. I can't remember the exact code that's in this one, but I'm sure they were definitely different. And this is an XR3i. And I suppose if comparing to the RS2000, apart from the the engines, I think they were 150 brake one. It was a Sierra 2 litre with a 16 valve head, crudely. But yeah, so the XR3s, they got the smaller 14-inch wheels. They didn't get the Recaro seats, they got these wingback ones, which I also personally think are pretty cool. So with the main video, there's going to be 3 parts to the video. The first part is, I guess, we're going to ask a question, how well has this convertible Escort survived over the last 20 years? I mean, they're not renowned for their corrosion resistance, and they weren't particularly well loved back in the day. They weren't received very well after the Mark IV. They were seen as a bit bland and a bit dull. So this one, on the face of it, well, it's still running, it's MOT'd, it's low mileage. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it up on a lift. Thanks again to Adam for letting us use his facilities. Get up on the lift, have a look at the floors, the sills, all the areas that are difficult to see, and see if there's any little hidden areas, that will maybe hide some rot. Have a quick look around suspension, brakes. I mean, we're not going through a massively detailed mechanical inspection, and just a quick look over it, see if there's any major horrors underneath. Then from there, we're going to just do a quick walk around interior, walk around outside, talk about the things I like about it, any features I notice, any issues, and then what we'll do is we'll finish the video off with a drive. For the drive, it's the roof's down, which is really where this thing comes into its own. It was a sunny day, but it was quite windy, and the sound quality, even with a decent mic, isn't particularly good, so apologies for that. But yeah, we do a wee drive, and what I do is I just talk about my impression of it, how it drives, not in comparison as a brand new car in the 90s or compared to anything else, just what it's like, or what it would be like to own this for a car that's maybe worth £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, how it performs in that context. So I hope you all enjoy it. Right, so I've been challenged by the owner of this, good friend of mine, to see what faults I can find. Do a bit of tyre kicking. So we'll get it up in the air and we'll have a look underneath, because being a 30-year-old Ford, it's bound to be rotten underneath. So maybe expecting the sills to collapse or something like that, I don't know. Seems to be alright so far. I think the car's raising rather than just the jack. Well, that was fairly uneventful. Yeah, the sills are all still in one piece. Right, let's start at the back. Let's see what we can find. Looks like we've got a brand new exhaust. Along the new back box. Looks like a new centre box. That's good. Any corrosion under the bumper? Nope, so that's pretty good. Let's have a wee look up here with a torch. That chassis rail there. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Fuel tank's got a wee bit surface rust, but there's nothing wrong with that really. What's this chassis rail like? Yep, that one's good. So that back end looks pretty decent. Structure wise, let's have a look in this inner arch. Again, that looks all original. Doesn't look like there's been any welding in there. Spring mount's good as well. Back of the sill's good. Yeah, I might be losing this bit. Right, let's have a look at the driver's side. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty mint under here. It's all original. Bottoms of those sills as well. Spotless. That's weird. Right, let's have a look at the suspension and stuff. I think it's probably original shocks and springs that are on it. Anti-roll bar. I suspect it's probably been lana guarded by the looks of it. I'll get some gloves on and I'll have a look at all these mounts and stuff. Brake pipes look good. metal brake lines, the original Ford ones. No issues there. Right, let's have a wee look around the front, see what we can find. We've got a plastic arch liner there, so I'll not be able to see what's going on with the metal work, but up on the top of that spring mount looks good, as does the brake pipe. Yep, original Ford brake pipe with no corrosion. That is weird. Passenger side, same round there. Brake pipe sound. Up on that spring mount, that sound. And yeah, probably original shocks and springs. 14-inch alloys. See how small they look. Right, let's get a look under here. Right, downpipe. Still got a sticker on it. I think that's possibly been replaced, but not at the same time as the rest of the system. Right, what else can we find? Engine. Actually pretty dry. New washer on that sump plug there. Looks like a recent oil filler. There's no oil pissing out of it, which you usually get with these. A wee bit on the back of the gearbox, but yeah, nothing major. I don't think it's had an engine rebuild, so it's pretty impressive. Radiator, what's the radiator like? Radiator's decent. Don't think that's an original radiator. I think that's been replaced at some point. Looks like we've got an outer CV bit on there. It's been replaced. And floor. Driver side floor. That's never been welded. You can see right along there, that's pretty much mint. And the passenger side, same story, pretty much mint, as are the metal brake lines. Right, let's have a wee look, see if we can find any wear in suspension and steering. That's pretty solid. Solid. Don't seem to be anything there. So that one's good, thumbs up for that one. Around here, let's have a look at the suspension. Yeah, it's pretty good. Right, let's look at the back wheel. Set, we have the handbrake on. Right, spins nice and freely. Good old drum brakes on the back of it as well, no discs, so yeah, no plate at all on that. Let's have a wee look under at that anti-roll bar. That bush is alright. Same with that one. That one's solid. That one's solid. Brake pipes, or brake hoses should I say. Look pretty decent. No cracks on that one. Nor that one. Right, possibly losing this bit. I'm glad it wasn't for any money, because that would have been bad. So there we go. Right, front left. See if there's anything here. Nope, that's pretty good. Nothing on the steering. The anti-roll bar bushes look good in there as well. I don't have a bar at hand to check the bottom ball joints, but I think they're pretty decent. As are those wishbone bushes at the back. Drop links. Yeah, drop links are fine as well. Right, so that's what a 40-odd thousand mile Mk5a actually looks like, one that's been cared for, so that's a pleasant surprise to see that. Right, let's have a wee look around the bodywork in this one, see how critical we can be. So in terms of rust, that front wing is pretty sound. You've got a tiny wee bit on that seam there, but again it's completely minor. A wee ding along it there. It's probably been painted at some point. These are squint, but again, doesn't really matter. Passenger's door, same story, that's pretty sound. A couple of wee stone chips in the bottom, but that's alright. Rear quarter, got a tiny wee bit blistering starting there. The arch lip's sound, so I mean it has probably had arch work in the past. Right, what's the sill like? That's bound to be rotten, isn't it? No, the sill seems spot on as well. That must have been replaced at some point. That bottom seam straight as a die along there. Wee bit blistering going on there. Nothing major. Back end, yeah, back end's pretty decent. 16 valve badge in there. Yeah, a wee bit blistering coming up there, but bumper's in decent condition. This quarter, yeah, pretty much the same as the other one, except there is no blistering coming through on it. That one's in a lot better neck. The door, a couple of wee minor chips, things on the door, but the door's pretty sound. As is the wing, tiny wee bit blistering just in that seam there. And this sill is just exactly the same as the other one. Yeah, dead straight along the bottom. A wee scuff and stuff there, and a wee bit paint coming off, but yeah, it's absolutely solid. Front end, a bit paint peeling off that bumper there. Black bumper under there, so it's maybe not an original one, I don't know how these were painted. But it definitely looks the part. Considering it's what, 1993, so 30 years old. 30-year-old Ford in a condition like that. There can't be many like that, can there? Right, so let's have a wee look at the interior. How nice are these seats? These kind of like wing back seats. I think they had them in the Fiesta STs as well, but the cloth in this one's mint. A wee bit of wear there, which you'd expect, but proper 90s. How nice is that? Door trims are in great condition as well. And we've got the VIN plate there, same as the Mk4. Oh, right, so sun's right in my eyes, which doesn't help. Right, so there is a lot of similarity between this and the Mk4, I think. You know, the layout of the heater controls, they're all very similar. On the dashboard, you know, you've got the red stripes with it being an XR3. The red needles, just to make it a wee bit sportier, but it is very similar. You've got the norm written on the engine temperature. Rev counter's a little bit of a different shape, but it's all pretty familiar. This one's fitted with a some kind of aftermarket immobiliser, period one, where you just put in a little card. Nice 3-spoke steering wheel there. The perforated Is that leather? No, I think that's probably plastic actually. Yeah, that's plastic. Oh, rubber. Why would it be plastic? Yeah, so just perforated rubber there in the red outline round the horn push. But it's lost those really cool, the really cool switchgear that the Mk5a had. You know, the little stumpy ones with the bezel that you turn for the lights. I really liked them. That was pretty cool. Ford head unit. I don't know if that's an original one, 2004. Oh, sorry, it's 2005 version. It looks very similar to mine. Maybe mine's is wrong. Area there for your cassettes. Pretty cool. Got your 4 electric windows. So yeah, these little ones in the back here. Yeah, they go up and down. These little tiny triangular ones. And here we also have heated front window. Probably won't be able to make it out from that. Oh, you can just see the lines. Yes, we've got the heated front window option. Got the switch here for the electric roof, and I think that looks like heated rear window switch. A couple of adjustments, so that's just your adjustment for your seat, so the forward and back. So rather than it being a bar under the front, it's a pull switch here, and then just a height adjustment, which I think it just adjusts the front of the seat. But it's pretty comfy. You sit quite low down in these, quite a bit lower than the Mk5a, I would say. But yeah, I think it's quite a nice place to be fair. And with the roof, what we'll do is we'll just start it. So the roof's just a matter of, let's close that door for a start. Basically just press that switch and it'll start coming up. Pretty cool. Once you get to this point, that's about as far as it'll go. Take these little hooks. Take these little hooks there, and you just line them up in the top of the A-post, and then you just pull it shut, like that, and then that'll lock, and then that's it. This is all pretty easy. The roof on this one's in pretty good condition as well. It's probably been replaced in all fairness. Glass back screen as well, so that's pretty handy. But what a nice looking car. Perfect for the summer as well. Right, so on to the fun part of the review, driving it. What's it like to drive? So I think XR3s, any of those sporty derivatives, you know, Golf GTIs, Astra GTE, GSI, you know, it's all about the drive. Well, you know, a bit about the appearance as well and the sound and stuff like that, but they have to drive right for them really to count as a successful sporting model. So as we said earlier, you know, this one, it's 1.8, it's only the 105 horsepower, so you know, it's never going to set the world on fire with straight line speed. But what I think it does do is offers a kind of a practical, reasonably reliable, you know, fun piece of kit for the summer. So what I'd say is, you know, for what it lacks in outright performance, it makes up for in just responsiveness. It's eager, it's ready to go. You know, I think it's reasonably torquey. So the power it does have is pretty accessible just when you're driving normally like this. You don't need to be wringing its neck. You know, so 40 mile an hour, fourth gear, you know, it's just over 2,000 revs. You know, you put your foot down, you know, there you're at 60 without a great deal of fuss. So I think it's all right, you know, for what it is, as long as you're not looking for, you know, Escort Cosworth levels of performance, which you wouldn't be if you bought one of these anyway. But yeah, in terms of the engine, I think it's reasonably refined. I mean, they were slated a little bit in the early days for being harsh, you know, when you rev them. To be honest, this isn't my car, so, you know, this hasn't ventured really much above 4,000 revs. It's certainly not been redlined anyway, so I couldn't comment what it's like if you're totally ragging it. But probably similar to any other 90s car, you know, they weren't that refined back then. So gearing. Gearbox is all right. It's a very strange angle that the stick comes out. It's just standard 5-speed manual. This one has got a wee bit of wear, I think, on the synchro. It's a wee bit clicky once it's warmed up, which isn't too big a deal. But I think the ratios are quite close together, which I'll notice in a minute when I put my foot down. There's second gear. You see, they're spaced very close. So it feels like you're making incredible progress up the road, and you're doing 100, 120 mile an hour by the time you're getting into fourth, but you're not really. It's just that general feel, kind of like what the earlier Civics were like. Everyone's spaced closely together. So I think it makes for a reasonably fun drive, you know, putting it in that context. I think comparing to the Mark IV, I'm pretty convinced, I'll need to check some of the videos on that, but I'm pretty convinced the gearing on that, it's a lot taller. So you feel like you're making a lot less progress, certainly in third when you're pressing on a bit. I'm not sure if you'll be able to make out the exhaust note with the amount of wind noise that's going on today. We'll take the roof down on the return journey and we'll see what we can pick up. I think it comes alive a wee bit more when you take the roof off. You know, with the roof on you get the added wind noise which you would expect. There's a wee bit of a leak from that window there. The angle of the window doesn't seem to have been adjusted right. But when you get that roof down, you know, second, third gear, I think you get a pretty cool exhaust note off it. It's a completely standard system on it, by the way. It isn't that old as you've seen from the earlier video. But yeah, I think it's quite a cool noise, you know. It's not intrusive and it's not boomy, and it's not raspy, which is a big positive, because there's nothing I hate more than droney exhaust. Somebody puts on a louder exhaust and it's just drones at speeds like this, you know, fifth gear. It's a real pain. So in terms of the rest of the controls, I'm getting a bit cold there. The rest of the controls, you know, the clutch is pretty light. I don't know if it's maybe had a clutch change at some point in its life. It does bite quite high up. Again, brakes, light in operation. I don't think there's any ABS in this one. I haven't tried it, but I haven't seen an ABS light when I start the car, so I think we can safely assume it doesn't have ABS. But it brakes reasonably well for you know, a 30-year-old car. I mean, it's funny to think that this is 30 years old now. You know, you'd think actually when you look at them, they're more like 15 years old. Steering, well, the steering in this one's power assisted, which is good. I think it's variable rate, actually. I'll need to check on that. I mean, to be fair, again, I think for what it is, you know, it handles all right. Certainly it's a lot better than the Mark IV, but the Mark IV does sit on Mk5a profile tyres. So these are a lot wider and a lot lower profile. But I think the ride's fine, you know, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, it's no car for taking round Knock Hill, but on a country road like this, carrying a fair speed, you know, it isn't wallowing about, you know, it's not, I don't find it too crashy. I think, again, it's all round, it's pretty decent. Tell that heater's all right. I've turned that up and I'm sweating now. That'll not be the case when I take the roof off. I think it's about 14 degrees today, which is unfortunate. Things that I don't like about it, that's kind of tough. You know, I tend to see 80s and 90s cars with rose-tinted spectacles because I do have such a soft spot for them, so I tend to be not that critical. Apart from things like I had a Mark II Ibiza Cupra, and I felt that was awful. You know, I really hated that. I was glad when that went. But this, you know, I think you can get on, you know, reasonably well with this car. You know, so yeah, get back to things I don't. I suppose a bit more of an irritation. The seating position's a bit weird for me, kind of, because I'm quite short. So You do sit very low down, and the adjustment is just on the front of the seat base. So that's not ideal. So steering wheel's a wee bit higher than I would have liked. I mean, there isn't a massive amount of headroom above me, but yeah, just a couple inches higher would have been absolutely ideal for me. Other than that, you know, what else can we say that's not up to spec? I mean, the car itself, you know, it's in amazing condition, as I've now revealed in the video. You know, there's no welding, there's no mechanical work needing done, and it's low mileage and it gets a lot of attention, you know, and it's quirky to drive. So yeah, I think a great all-rounder. I mean, I think that's probably how I would sum this car up. You know, it's a great all-rounder. It's not amazing at anything, and I wouldn't say it's terrible at anything either. I mean, even, you know, fuel consumption, I've had this car now, I've done 90 miles in it. Yeah, I've not been thrashing it, I've been driving like this, but it's not been sat and cruised at 50 mile an hour, you know, on some kind of eco mission. So it was just over half when I got it, you know, we're over a quarter there. So, you know, I reckon it is probably doing somewhere in the 30s, which I think was pretty typical of something back then. Again, for an old car, I think that's pretty decent, you know, when you're driving like this. Again, I mean, you see the roads I'm on here, you know, it's great fun on this road. Like I said, I'm not pressing on, I'm not breaking any speed records, just, you know, out having an enjoyable Sunday drive in it. It's got plenty of torque to pull it out of bends like that. You know, it's ideal sitting in fourth gear there, 3,000 revs, put your foot down and you're back up to the speed limit again. You know, you don't really need to change down to third, even for slower bends like this. There's plenty of torque to pick it up and move it on. So yeah, I think that's more than enough for something like this. But say it definitely gets a thumbs up from me. Whether I would buy one for myself, who knows? Maybe an RS2000 would be an interesting little toy to have. Be interested to hear from anybody in the comments, anybody who's had the 130 brake version as well as previous loan and maybe a 105, just to see, get their feedback. Is there actually a massive difference between the two models? I've not driven a 130. I had a Mark 1 Mondeo, that was a 115. This has got more life about it. I mean, this car is lighter, obviously, so, you know, you would expect that. But I think this is a good bit more sprightly than the Mondeo, so maybe the Mondeo was just a bit worn, but that was pretty low miles. That was only 70,000 miles on that one. What we'll try and do, find somewhere we'll pull in and get the roof down for a short time because it's freezing. I did actually shoot this video on a really warm sunny day, and the microphone, for whatever reason that might be, did not pick up any of the sound, so it was running off the phone's mic, which was right in the way of the wind coming in the car. So I shot all the footage, rendered it all, edited it and looked at it, and I just thought I just can't live with that level of sound quality in a video. It was absolutely terrible. I'll maybe cut in a wee shot of it. But there we go, that's the roof down. So again, pretty easy to do. What we'll do is we'll keep all the windows up, just so we have a chance of actually hearing what I'm saying on this one. But yeah, pretty drama free actually getting the roof down. You know, those two handles is electrically operated, and then, you know, 10 seconds or so later, you know, job done, you're ready to go. It's got this cool little rollover bar in the middle, I think adds to the style on it. Actually, it doesn't seem too cold, but then again, I am only doing 20 mile an hour. So hear that exhaust note now? I don't know if I'll pick it up through this mic, but I think it's really nice, you know, for a 4-cylinder. Yeah, it's not too cold actually. What I'll do is I'll get this heater up. The heater is actually pretty decent, apart from blowing crap in your eye. Yeah, so there, you know, with that heater up full, you know, there's plenty of hot air coming out those vents. directed to the steering wheel to keep you warm, so it's not too bad. Like I said, seeing these small B road sections, I mean it's great fun. I mean, there's fifth gear. So there's fifth gear there. You know, still toddling along quite happily on this. You know, it's not straining it too much, so I think that is what sums up this engine. You know, accessible power and torque for what it is, rather than outside. You know, performance. It's responsive. And it's accessible. You know, for 7, 8/10 of the way, maybe not 8/10, so maybe 7/10 of the way. You know, this is going to tick all the boxes. And if you want something quicker, get an RS2000 or a Cosy. So actually, with the windows up, it's not particularly noisy. It's reasonably calm in here actually. What I'll do is we'll put them down now and see what that's like with them down. Yeah, so that makes quite a difference. So you get blasted in the face there with a hell of a lot of air coming in from that side. So as like I was saying, fifth gear, you know, we're uphill. Doesn't seem to stress it at all. We're sitting at just under 3,000 revs, so 2750. That was it. I remember there was one other thing that could do with being improved. Fifth gear, I think, could do with being a little bit taller. So when you are on the motorway, you know, doing 70, you know, it's crept up to about 3250, which for me is just a little bit too high for cruising. Put those windows back up again. Blasted a bit too much there. Yeah, so that was the other thing, you know, just the gearing in fifth gear, I think could just be a wee bit longer. Because you've still got that fourth gear, you know, for this type of thing. So yeah, fifth gear, that's the other thing. What a fun car though. And even better, just, you know, having one on loan for a week and then enjoying it, doing a review and handing it back, you know. So very grateful to John for that. Thanks a million. Please feel free to loan me some of your other cars if you want me to do reviews on those. John's currently got the Saab Astra at the moment in exchange for the Escort, so I'm sure we'll find out how he gets on with that. Right, we'll do a quick wee blast through the gears. You know, not very scientific, mind. So yeah, I mean, I think probably back in the day, you know, if you were wringing its neck, you know, it'd probably be in the region of, I think they were 9.8, 9.5, whatever, something like that to 60. So it's all right, you know, I wouldn't say it was a slow car. Yeah, if anybody has a 130 horsepower version that they'd be prepared to loan me for a review, that would definitely be of interest to compare them. Right, and there we have it, end of the review. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was my first review, so be kind. I'm still learning. Summary for this car, I really like it, but you know, in the context of what it is, you know, I think it's an amazing all-rounder. If you wanted a convertible car, a retro 90s convertible car, I don't think you could go wrong with one of these. You've seen how it performs. You know, it's got accessible power. It's reliable, it's responsive through the gears, you don't need to wring its neck, there's no bizarre little quirks about them. It's just a nice car, it's easy to live with. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. And in this particular one, again, you know, John's done well with this one, or maybe it was me that found it for him, so I take all the credit. Yeah, joking aside, yeah, no, this is a great example. You know, we've been right through it. Low mileage, 43,690 miles, super low, which I believe is genuine. It's in great condition, you know, so I think it's going to go on for a good another few years anyway, and certainly much more enjoyment out on the road. Look forward to seeing all you guys again, and take care. And I've just remembered, third thing I dislike, this is a huge thing of course, there is no boot release. You know, the little buttons you usually get down the side of the driver's seat. No boot release, and there's no button on the boot. So that's a bit annoying. And the boot struts are knackered in this one, also forgot to say. So when it goes down that boot, I tell you what, it slams down with some ferocity. We're up to 3 things now. Let's see if we can find a 4th. I'm really digging deep now.